You already know what time it is. Welcome to the show where the real stay spinning. Popcorn ready, yeah, the cow will stay winning. From the opening scene to the end credit roll, every frame get love, every story gets told. I'm talking movie reviews, no rush, no hype. If it's fire, we'll say it. If not, we precise. From blockbusters big to the films you miss. If it hit different, yeah, we taking a risk. Just that real time. We have Frankie. Take a seat. Front row vision, yeah, we break it down neat. From the trailers to the stars to the buzz. Welcome to another episode of Real Time with Frankie. If you're still with me, I want to thank you once more. Okay? We're going to kick off this episode with a trailer coming from A24 Studios starring Zendaya and Robert Pattinson. This is The Drama.
Ready and turn. Nice.
The wedding is this Saturday. What stories are you gonna do?
What do you mean, my speech?
Yeah. Are you gonna use the first time we met?
Yes.
Okay, what about the first date?
Yeah, of course.
Fuck.
You don't have to do a speech.
So you're saying Charlie is your first
Love? Yeah.
first love or your first crush?
Both, I think. Wait, is that insane?
At 30?
So I want to say this thing about her laugh. You know how it's very cute, but it's also kind of like
repulsive even.
All right, so before we got married, we did this thing where we said the worst thing we've ever done.
I'll tell mine if we all do it. Promise?
What did you do?
This dog.
Beer bottles and porn.
you left him there overnight.
Yeah.
What's the worst thing I've ever done?
Okay,
Are you serious?
I'm sorry.
Order an Uber.
Emma, what the fuck?
Am I sensing some nerves? Remember, you know each other really well.
You have to stop thinking about it.
Can I just say stop thinking?
So you are thinking about it.
For fuck's sake, I am thinking about it now.
How can you even trust her?
You're being incredibly hypocritical.
I never said he was mentally disabled.
Yes, you did. You said he was slow. You said he was slow. Emma, true love is complicated. Sorry. I'm just trying to do your stupid joke thing. It's about acceptance. Radical acceptance.
Why are you acting like you've never done anything bad? What the fuck was that?
I don't know. Just, there's some drama. It's very funny.
First thing I want to say about this trailer is that A24 in the last few years has had a ridiculous trajectory of the stuff they've been putting out and the value and how great it is. So I first want to recognize and acknowledge that this is coming from A24 Studios. Look up anything else they've done in the last few years. I'll say since 2020. Okay. And they have bangers. So I already look forward to this movie. But also starring Zendaya and Robert Pattinson. Zendaya, we know her. She's currently Michelle Jones Watson in the newest version of Spider-Man. She is the co-lead in the Dune series, and we just know her from growing up on Disney. You know, Shake It Up and the other shows that she was a part of. A really good child actor that we watch grow up. I'm really, really, really impressed with the work that she's put out since leaving Disney or getting into these mature roles, and the fact that, you know, she's not crazy, you know, like, you know, a lot, you know, there's this very, very bad thing that happens with child actors and whatnot and children's stars, and she seems to be growing up very, very normally, and I'm happy to see it. Okay. Next, we got Robert Pattinson. Robert Pattinson, currently the most recent Batman under the DCU with James Gunn, most known for his roles in the Twilight franchise. And I'm really excited to see what he's got going on in this movie also. You know, when those dramatic actors get into comedies, I often think that they do really, really well. Okay. Other people in this film, we have Alana Haim, most recently a part of One Battle After Another. When I looked up other work that she's done, it's a lot of independent things. She is in a lot of music videos. She has her own music videos, so maybe she is originally a songstress and got her big break in the film world. We also have another actor in here named Mamadou Athie, and he was actually recently in Jurassic World Dominion and also played a voice in the Pixar film Elemental. So I like what's going on here. We have two really big stars and then two recently working stars. So I like that dynamic as well. When you have an all-star cast, it could take attention away from other people, but I'm certain that Zendaya and Robert Pattinson are going to maintain the attention in this movie, but also the other two stars are going to get way more practice than they did in the past. Okay. But if you watch the trailer with me, it looks like it's going to be a hectic movie. You know, they were playing this game. Social media calls it "we listen and we don't judge," but there was a lot of judging going on in this. You know, and the week that these two are supposed to get married, man, that it just goes off the rails. So I can't wait to see the dynamic between Zendaya and Robert Pattinson. You know, Zendaya is more funny than dramatic, but she has the dramatic capability. But coming from Disney, you know, very children friendly, she has those comedic elements already, right? Robert Pattinson definitely comes from the drama. So I can't wait to see the dynamic between these two actors, and I'm really excited to see what it's got going on. It's probably gonna now A24 is probably gonna have some giant twist either at the end or maybe the reveal of whatever game they were playing was the twist. But I'm hopeful to watch this, and this is definitely gonna get a movie review out of me. Okay. So I'm only going to do one trailer review today because I want to introduce a new segment. And this segment is going to be called Best Scenes. Okay. What I want to do is pick out what I think the best scene of a movie is, and then just talk about the cinematic elements that are happening in the film. You know, we could talk about the actors and actresses in the scene as well. But I really just want to highlight the craft. I really want to highlight the craft, right? The acting, character portrayal, the storytelling element in the scene, and that's what I want to do with this segment. So I also don't want to pull anything that's too new because I don't want to create spoilers for anyone who hasn't seen some newer movies already. So for this segment, I've chosen an oldie but goodie. It's not too old either. Okay. This is going to be a scene from Django Unchained. This is what I feel is the best scene in the movie Django Unchained.
So I have quite a bit of practice with theater types. Oh, there you are. I was beginning to think that you and that old crow run off together.
Be a hell of a note, wouldn't it? Lord Lee, I was just looking out the big window. Billy Crash is out there dealing with some shady slaver trying to sell a passel of ponies. Would you be a dear go out there and give them gals an eyeball? Hmm?
Of course, brother.
Thank you, Donna.
Yeah, business never sleeps.
Mm-hmm.
Apropos, before your exit, we were discussing the possibility of my purchasing Brunhilde.
Ah, yes. Yes, we were, Doctor. And we will again. In a moment.
Who is your little friend?
This is Ben. He's an old Joe that lived around here for a long time. And I do mean a long damn time. Old Ben here took care of my daddy and my daddy's daddy till he up and killed over one day. Old Ben took care of me. Growing up the son of a huge plantation owner in Mississippi puts a white man in contact with a whole lot of black faces. I spent my whole life here, right here in Candyland, surrounded by black faces. I seen them every day, day in, day out. I only had one question. Why don't they kill us? Now, right out there on that porch, 3 times a week for 50 years, old Ben here would shave my daddy with a straight razor. Now, if I was old Ben, I would have cut my daddy's goddamn throat, and it wouldn't have taken me no 50 years to do it neither. But he never did. Why not? You see, the science of phrenology is crucial to understanding the separation of our two species. In the skull of the African here, the area associated with submissiveness is larger than any human or any other subhuman species on planet Earth. If you examine this piece of skull here, you'll notice 3 distinct dimples. Here, here, and here. Now, if I was holding the skull of an Isaac Newton or Galileo, these 3 dimples would be found in the area of the skull most associated with creativity. But this is the skull of old Ben. And in the skull of old Ben, unburdened by genius, these 3 dimples exist in the area of the skull most associated with civility. Now, Bright Boy, I will admit you are pretty clever. But if I took this hammer here and I bashed in your skull with it, you would have the same 3 dimples in the same place as old Ben.
Hey! Now lay your palms flat on that tabletop. If you lift those palms off that turtle shell tabletop, Mr. Pooch is gonna let loose with both barrels of that sawed off. There have been a lot of lies said around this dinner table here tonight, but that you can believe.
Mr. Moody, would you be so kind as to collect the pistol hanging off these boys' hips here? Thank you ever so much.
Doctor.
Where were we?
Jackass.
Ah, yes. I do believe you were just getting ready to make me a proposition to buy Broomhilda. Am I right?
Right.
Bring out Hildy.
No way, Honor.
Sit your ass in that.
Lay your hand flat on that tabletop.
Shut your mouth. Dr. Schultz, in Greenville, you yourself said that for the right nigger, you'd be willing to pay what some may consider is a ridiculous amount. To which me myself said, what is your definition of ridiculous? To which you said, $12,000. Now, considering y'all have ridden a whole lot of miles, went through a whole lot of trouble, and done spread a whole lot of bull to purchase this lovely lady right here, it would appear that Broomhilda is in fact the right nigger. And if y'all want to leave Candyland with Broomhilda, the price is $12,000.
And I take it you prefer the take it or leave it style of negotiation?
Yes, I do, Doctor.
You see, under the laws of Chickasaw County, Broomhilda here is my property. And I can choose to do with my property whatever I so desire. And if y'all think my price for this nigga here is too steep, what I'm gonna desire to do is... take this fucking hammer here and beat our ass to death with it, right in front of both y'all.
Easy, good fella.
Then we can examine the 3 dimples inside Bromhilda's skull. Now! What's it gonna be, Doc? Huh? What's it gonna be?
May I lift the hands off the tabletop in order to remove my billfold?
Yes, you may.
That 12.
To the man with the exceptional beard and his unexceptional nigger. Mr. Mogi.
Yes, Calvin.
Would you make these gentlemen a receipt for $12,000, please?
$12,000.
It was a pleasure doing business with y'all. Now, gentlemen, if you care to join me in the parlor, we will be serving white cake.
This is a wild scene to me. Okay? All right? If you watch this movie, it's kind of towards the end, and I believe this is definitely a climactic scene. Is it the climax? I don't know, but it's definitely a climactic scene. The scene starts off with a they're at a dinner table, right? And in this scene, they're eating dinner and negotiating the purchase of who Kerry Washington is playing in this film, a slave named Broomhilda. Okay, and it was just revealed to Leonardo DiCaprio's character Calvin Candy that Jamie Foxx's character Django is there to purchase Broomhilda because they know each other. Calvin Candy didn't believe it at first, but Sam Jackson's character, I believe his name was Steven, enlightened him to the scene that took place just before what I showed you, right? So Steven and Calvin Candy are having a conversation off camera. And when Calvin Candy returns to the room, here is the scene, okay? And in this scene, what I think is going on are a few things. We get to see Calvin Candy in a very calm state, right? He is giving a monologue, you know, and he's just cool. He's establishing some sort of authority in the room, you know? And he begins to discuss the brain of a slave in this movie. And instantly a flip is switched when he says, if I cracked your skull open, we'd see the same 3 dimples. You know, someone burst in the room with a gun. Y'all saw the scene. Someone burst in the room with a gun, and now he's not cool anymore. He's threatening. He's menacing. You know, a change of character in that moment, in that instance. You know, and then towards the end of the scene, he's back to calm. You know, it's and something like that people would often call psychotic. You know, to be able to switch between personalities like that. And it was just to go from calm, educating, threatening and menacing. Oh my gosh, I just totally skipped the scene where he becomes villainous, you know? In this scene, Jamie Foxx has said it in many, many interviews. You see blood on Calvin Candy's hand, and that is real blood. Whatever glass he slammed on the table actually cut him. And in a moment of improvisation, he smears it on Kerry Washington's face. And when I found out that was real blood, I was really, really upset because I just thought that was just disrespectful. I don't care if you're acting, you know, blame it on the craft or whatnot. I don't know if I would have stayed in character for something like that. But he goes from a few things. He's calm, educating, showing his dominance in the room. Then it becomes threatening and menacing. Then it just becomes villainous, when he is smearing the blood on Kerry Washington's face. And then he is right back to the personal, charming guy that we met earlier in the film. Right? Now, we already knew that he was a bad guy. We already didn't like him. But as far as the scene he was in, he was definitely charming, definitely personable, And he was right back to that at the very end of the scene. You join me. Here we're having white cake. And it was just the levels of acting that took place in that very scene. I think Leo DiCaprio was robbed of an Oscar much earlier in his career. That this movie deserved an Oscar, and I think he played in a movie. And he also played in a movie called The Departed, also with an all-star cast. I think he should have got an Oscar in that one also. But just wanted to share what I thought was the best scene in this film. And if y'all agree, let me know. If you don't agree, let me know as well. Okay? Last thing I want to say about Django Unchained, I really should have started with this part. But to really, really appreciate this movie, you have to understand what this movie is. Okay? And oftentimes people call it a slave movie. It is not that. It is not a slave movie. Django Unchained is a Western movie that acknowledges slavery because it happened in the West. But, usually when people talk about Westerns, they think cowboys and Indians. So Django Unchained is the first movie that I'm aware of that is a Western movie that acknowledges slavery. Next, it is a love story. So it is a Western love story because the whole plot of the movie is Django getting the aid of Christoph Waltz's character to reunite himself with his wife. And I love it. So when you watch that scene, if it upset you in the past, you got to rethink how you view the movie. It is not a slave movie. It is a Western love story. Okay? So that was best scene. All right? I want to move into the last segment of the show, director's notes. Recently, Matt Damon was on the Joe Rogan podcast when he was promoting his movie, The Rip, which I did a movie review on last week. Check out the movie review, okay? But he was promoting his movie, The Rip, and they had a really interesting conversation about the future of filming and streaming. Damon was talking about how viewing habits have changed. People don't sit and watch movies the same way anymore. They're on their phones, they're multitasking, they're pausing, they're scrolling, and because of that, he suggested films might need to evolve structurally. He talked about the idea that movies may need to start with a huge action scene in the beginning, right? Something explosive that grabs attention immediately. He also mentioned that modern storytelling might need to restate the plot multiple times throughout the film just to account for viewers who are distracted or only half watching. Now, whether you agree with that or not, it is a fascinating observation because it highlights a deeper reality. The film industry is changing faster than ever. But there is one thing that hasn't changed and probably never will: the human desire for a great story. Streaming has completely transformed how content is consumed. Platforms like Netflix release massive volumes of content every year, and algorithms decide what gets promoted. Viewer retention data influences storytelling decisions. And because of that, studios are left to just experiment. They're trying out new formulas, new marketing angles, new narrative structures. But here's the truth: marketing tactics fail all the time. Studios often believe that certain trends will guarantee success, whether it's pushing a specific social message, leaning heavily into politically correct language, or building campaigns around representation buzzwords. There's often an assumption that these elements alone will drive audience engagement, and sometimes they do. But more often than not, they don't. Because audiences can sense when something feels manufactured. You can't algorithm your way into emotional connection. You can't spreadsheet your way into cultural impact. And you can't checklist your way into storytelling magic. What makes Damon's point even more interesting is that he also discussed the Netflix series Adolescence. According to him, the show did none of the things that he earlier described. It didn't have a massive opening spectacle. It didn't consistently restate the plot, and it didn't rely on distraction-proof, storytelling techniques. Instead, it just told a fascinating story. And that's what pulled viewers in. Not marketing psychology, not structural gimmicks, story. That's the part of the entertainment industry that has remained consistent from the beginning of cinema. People want to feel something. They want to connect. They want to recognize parts of themselves in the characters they're watching. Because if there's one factor that consistently draws audiences, it isn't scale. It's relatability. You can spend hundreds of millions on visual effects, action sequences, and promotional campaigns. But if the audience doesn't emotionally connect, none of that matters. Think about the films and shows people truly obsess over. They aren't always the loudest or the biggest. They're the ones that feel real, the ones that make viewers say, I felt that, or I lived that, or I understand that character. Relatability turns passive viewing into an emotional investment. It turns casual interest into fandom, and it turns content into culture. Yes, modern audiences are distracted. Yes, phones have changed the way we watch films. And yes, streaming has reshaped storytelling expectations. But distractions don't eliminate emotional response. Even someone who's half watching will look up when something powerful happens on screen. A great performance, a shocking moment, or a heartbreaking revelation. Story has a way of cutting through the noise. There's something no marketing strategy can fully replace. Studios can optimize thumbnails. They always analyze watch time data and they test audience reactions. But they still can't engineer genuine emotional resonance. That still comes from writers, directors, actors, and creatives who understand the human experience. There's also a danger in designing films primarily around the assumption that audiences won't pay attention. If every story starts with a spectacle and constantly repeats itself, storytelling could become less nuanced, less layered, less trusting of the audience's intelligence. Cinema has always been a medium that rewards attention. Some of the greatest films ever made unfold slowly. They allow tension to build. They give viewers space to interpret meaning. If storytelling becomes too focused on recapturing distracted viewers, it risks losing what makes film an art form, because art isn't always immediate. Sometimes it requires patience. Sometimes it requires immersion. At the end of the day, Damon's comments highlight a tension within the modern entertainment landscape. Technology is evolving. Distribution models are evolving. Audience behavior is evolving. But storytelling fundamentals remain surprisingly stable. People still want characters they believe in, conflicts they understand, journeys that feel authentic. You can change the platform, you can change the runtime, and you can even change how viewers discover the content. But you can't change the emotional core of why people watch stories in the first place. Because storytelling isn't just entertainment, it's reflection, empathy, and meaning. This is my final thought on this take. The film industry will continue to experiment. Studios will try new structures, new marketing tactics, and new engagement strategies. Some will work, many won't. But the projects that truly last, the ones that audiences remember years later, will almost always share one thing in common. They told a story that mattered. And in a world full of distraction, relatability and authenticity might be the most powerful tools filmmakers still have. That's been Director's Notes, and this has been Real Time with Frankie. I want to thank you if you stayed this long or if you listened to the end. All right, please like and subscribe on anywhere I can be followed. At Discuss the Film on all my socials. I've got a link in my Instagram bio. If you click it, I assure you it's not an OnlyFans, okay? Thanks so much. I'll see you next time.